The room nobody read. Stay in the room. May 2026. Spoken word version. There is a moment from a Green Party conference earlier this month that I need you to hold. Zack Polanski is at the front of a hall. He is making the argument for European alignment. From the floor, a voice, older, male, the specific accent of trade unionism, says the European Union is a boss's club. Always has been. Scattered applause. Not loud, not isolated. That sound in that hall is the load-bearing wall of British progressive politics showing you the crack. Stay in the room. One misreading, one coalition, one moment in 2020, and everything since follows from it with the structural logic of a building whose foundations were poured wrong before anyone moved in. The Corbyn coalition was not what it appeared. It was two completely incompatible things held in the same room by a single shared enemy. On one side, the young progressive majority. Post-2015. Social media generation. Ardently, completely, non-negotiably pro-European. This was not policy preference. This was who they were. On the other side, the Bennite third. Trade union tradition. 1970s formation. Tony Benn's children. The EU as boss's club. As constraint on socialism. As vehicle for capital against Labour. Corbyn sat somewhere in that tradition and said nothing clear about it. His ambiguity was the glue. While the shared enemy was austerity, nobody had to reconcile the European question. The coalition functioned because the contradiction stayed unspoken. This was the room Starmer inherited in 2020. He read the wrong room. The Bennite third was loud, organised, institutionally embedded, conference floors, NEC seats, union structures. Decades of internal party democracy built for exactly this kind of leverage. The progressive majority was quieter, more distributed, less organised. Real larger in fact, but not the people in the meeting rooms. Proximity distorted the sample. He saw the room he was standing in. He mistook it for the country. And so he made the calculation. Solve the internal problem first. Build the party first. The progressive majority has nowhere else to go. Stop. The progressive majority had somewhere else to go. That was the part of the calculation that failed. They left Labour in waves, not all at once, because 1,000 small signals had told them their central conviction was not something Labour was prepared to defend. They went to the Greens, which seemed to share their European position, which seemed like the right place. But the Greens were not what they appeared either. When Corbyn's Labour collapsed, the radical left needed somewhere to go. It went to the same place, and it brought its full inheritance with it. Including the Bennite European scepticism, the young progressives had specifically left Labour to escape. This is the cuckoo mechanism. Cuckoos succeed because they exploit hosts with insufficient immune response. The Greens were the near-perfect host. Open culture. Hungry for activist energy. No institutional memory of how a coherent faction operates when it arrives in organised numbers. The young progressives provided the cover. You cannot reject thousands of new members without looking like you are suppressing your own growth. So they didn't. And Polanski inherited a party whose membership disagrees fundamentally about the central political question of our time. The conference heckle is the fracture becoming visible. There will be more. Your party proved the mechanism in 18 months, polling at 18% in July, at 1% by spring. Negative unity collapsed on contact with the first actual decision required. The coalition that functioned in opposition could not survive the simplest act of definition. The lesson is available to anyone reading it. The contradictions do not resolve themselves. They wait. And then they arrive all at once. The Liberals made this mistake in the 1920s. A coalition mathematically unsustainable once organised alternatives existed for each component. They kept the organisation after the people had gone. Labour is making the same mistake now from the opposite direction. Still institutionally present, still in government. But the coalition that delivered the 2024 majority was already negative unity. Anti-Tory rather than pro-Labour. Negative unity does not survive contact with the responsibility of governing. The difference is that Labour is not being replaced by something coherent. The fragmentation goes in multiple directions simultaneously. The Liberals lost cleanly. Labour is losing messily. That may be the worst outcome. The fire piece I published yesterday named the external environment. 3 layers: commercial, political, financial, strategic, the conditions permanently in place. This piece names what was left undefended. Every significant Labour decision between 2020 and 2024 optimised for internal party management at the cost of outward democratic defence. The winter fuel cut. The Mandelson appointment. The asylum positioning that chased reform's framing, every choice the same shape, inward, tactical. Wrong against the only weather that mattered. Farage spent the same period building a machine. One party playing the strategic clock, everyone else playing the political clock and calling it strategy. Reform voters consolidating tactically. The Progressive Coalition voting tribally, one side in formation. The other side 6 separate teams pretending the absence of coordination is principle. Which brings us to where we are. Josh Simons resigned his Makerfield seat on May 14 so that Andy Burnham could stand there. The by-election is June 18, the first time this has happened since 1965. Farage has promised to throw everything at it. The polling models say reform wins. Stop and let that settle. The potential next Labour leader must first win a by-election in a constituency the models say he is likely to lose. The prepared environment is not waiting for the internal arithmetic to resolve. Burnham, if he gets there, faces a fight-or-die calculation. 2 sinking ships. Labour, Britain, both hold below the waterline before he reached the wheel. His strongest moment is the moment he takes office. The novelty premium is short. The only move that avoids the epitaph of captaining both ships down is an early election. From that moment of maximum goodwill. Single strategic objective. Not winning outright. Producing the hung parliament. Voting intention. Reform 28. Conservatives 18. Labour 18. Liberal Democrats 13. Under first past the post that distribution does not produce a hung parliament without tactical coordination, the Progressive Coalition has never yet achieved under pressure. He can try. The trying is the right move. But the holes were made below the waterline years before he arrived. The room nobody read was a room that could have been read. The misreading was not inevitable. There were people who saw it correctly in 2020 and said so. They were ignored not because they were wrong, but because the people who needed to hear them were standing too close to the wrong noise. That gap, between mechanism visible and outcome visible, was exactly the window in which intervention was possible. It is now closed. The Conservatives made this mistake first. Party before country. They were punished for it. Labour made it second. Party before country. The mechanism identical. The content different. The consequence the same. The pattern repeats because the temptation repeats. Defending the party feels responsible. Defending the country requires accepting that the party may not survive what defending the country requires. The mountain does not care about your feelings. The fire does not care whether you notice the smoke. The room does not care whether anyone is reading it now. The window is still closing. Read it anyway, stay in the room.